Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're still in our first cycle of 1996, talking about a movie on this episode. In this episode, we're talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. Absolutely love this movie. I've seen it a bunch of times. I never got to see it in theaters initially. I remember renting it on like VHS when it was put out on like around like September, maybe October of 1996. Watched it a couple times on that rental. I owned it on VHS for a while. I unfortunately no longer have that tape, but have it on DVD. And then I've watched it several times on streaming. It's on, I believe it's on HBO Max currently. So got some notes here. We're going to discuss the movie. Again, absolutely love this movie. It's a blast from start to finish. It's just a lot of fun. But here we have our notes. So, From Dusk Till Dawn, released January 19th, 1996, or January 17th is when it premiered. But they did the premiere. A couple days later, did the wide release. The concept of it came from Robert Kurtzman, who then, like, kind of like the basic idea of the plot came from him. And then he hired Quentin Tarantino to basically write the screenplay, and it's a very Tarantino screenplay. I think, again, Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorite writers and directors. He didn't direct this; it's directed by Robert Rodriguez, but he's one of my favorite writers for. His screenplays are just the dialogue is so good. So not this is basically going to be more of the same from him. Just amazing dialogue and just a great screenplay. Robert Rodriguez does an amazing job directing this. It's a great collaboration between the two of them. I think there was a collaboration on Tarantino. I believe shows up in Desperado, because I think like during Desperado's production, I think Tarantino was working on Pulp Fiction, and they kind of him and Rodriguez have kind of been working together, kind of on and off for a while. They like did like Grindhouse together and stuff like that. So it's definitely a very good collaboration. Apparently, I did not know this during my research. Apparently, this script was considered to be part of the Tales from the Crypt film series. So, Tales from the Crypt did Demon Knight, and they followed that up with Bordello of Blood. This From Dusk Till Dawn was initially, I think, considered to be a would have been considered to be the second film in that series, but Universal company behind it ended up going with Bordello of Blood instead. I think it probably worked out better that it didn't, because it kind of stands on its own. It's not part of a different series, even though this did spawn a didn't know it spawned a TV series, but it spawned two direct-to-video sequels. There was a video game. The video game wasn't very good, or it was like a PC game. I remember playing it back like in like the very like early 2000s. I think it was like 2001 or so. But that wasn't a very good game. But I think it would have been a little, maybe not as good if it was part of a like larger franchise, being the Tales of the Crypt series. Because Tales of the Crypt, I think started off as a comic book back like decades and decades ago. I think most people know it now from its HBO series as well as the two films. But that was that part of it. Earl McGraw, who is played by Michael Parks in this movie, he's the Texas Ranger in the beginning of the film. That character has gone on to be kind of a recurring character in Robert Rodriguez films, other Tarantino films, as well as like the kind of collaborations like Planet Terror. That character shows up multiple times throughout like just various films. I remember him being in Kill Bill Volume 2, because I think he's very investigating like the kind of like the massacre at the church at the beginning of that movie. It had a $19 million budget. It ended up grossing $59 million. It kind of had mixed reviews, but I think if you look at it, you can definitely tell it's kind of intentionally done as a B movie, kind of like very campy, very kind of schlocky kind of film. So I think it definitely works in its favor, because you kind of go in, it's just Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez having a ton of fun making this. You can just tell how much fun they're having. Let me see. So again, it's spoken on two direct-to-video sequels. There's Texas Blood Money and The Hangman's Daughter, and those are both on HBO Max. I might at some point just watch them. I haven't seen them, but they were direct to video, but they definitely look entertaining. I think the second one has Robert Patrick in it, and I love Robert Patrick. He's a great actor. One really cool thing with this movie is this is essentially a crime movie up to like the midpoint, and then it becomes a vampire movie. There's no real granularity. It doesn't kind of gradually become a vampire movie. It literally, as soon as like they get to the kind of bar, they get across the border, they get to the bar, it becomes a straight up vampire movie, and it's not subtle or gradual at all. It's almost like it's two movies. But I think that's one of my favorite things about this film is it basically just is first like the movie's about an hour and 50 minutes, like a little like maybe hour 48, whatever, hour 48 and change. The first hour is basically the crime movie, and then the final like 48 minutes or so are a vampire movie. So maybe a little bit more than half. But it definitely doesn't really indicate anything about it being a vampire movie until it becomes one. I think actually seeing the trailer for this actually kind of ruined it for me because I knew it was a vampire movie. But it would be really interesting to show this movie to somebody that has no idea that it's a vampire movie and just see the reaction as soon as it becomes it. Because basically, as soon as Salma Hayek's character goes into her vampire form, it's a full-on vampire movie from there until the end. And then for like a couple minutes at the end after they get out of the bar, it becomes a crime movie again. For just a couple minutes, actually. Cheech Marin's in this movie. He plays three characters. It's just really cool. He plays a border patrol officer. He plays, I think, the character's name is Chet, who is kind of like I guess, barker at the bar. I can't say it. I cannot say it on the channel, but you know what scene I'm talking about if you have seen the movie. And then he plays Carlos, the guy that Seth and Richie are meeting up with in Mexico to kind of like once they're on the road for the law. It has a really great soundtrack. Let me actually pull the soundtrack up here. The soundtrack, I actually owned the soundtrack on both. Bought it on tape initially because didn't have the money for the CD when it came out. So this is like fall of '96, and then in like 2010 or so, I ended up just finding the CD. The soundtrack's really good. It has a lot of kind of like just like Latin music on there, like Tito and Tarantula are on there. Stevie Ray Vaughan, not necessarily like Latino, but like very Texas kind of style of Texas blues. But soundtrack is about 48 minutes long, and it's got 18 tracks. Some of them are audio clips of the film. Tarantino films are known to do that with the Pulp Fiction soundtrack having, some of the dialogue. But track one is Everybody Be Cool. That's just George Clooney being like, everybody be cool. You be cool. Track two is Dark Knight by the Blasters. Absolutely love that. It's a great opening, kind of introductory track. After that, track three, we have Mexican Blackbird by ZZ Top. Track four is Texas Funeral by John Wayne. It's Jon, so not John Wayne, the actor. Track five is Foolish Heart by the Mavericks. Track six is Would You Do Me a Favor, which is Juliette Lewis and the Tarantino. If you know the scene, you know what I'm talking about. Track 7 is Dengue Women Blues by Jimmy Vaughn. Track 8 is Torquay, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, by The Leftovers. Track 9 is She's Just Killing Me by ZZ Top. That's kind of like this, right when they get to the bar, that's the song that's playing. I think it plays during the credits as well. Track 10 is Cheech Marin doing Chet's speech. Again, if you know, you know. I can't really repeat it on here. Track 11 is Angry Cockroaches, which is by Tito and Tarantula. Track 12 is Mary Had a Little Lamb by Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. Track 13 is After Dark, again by Tito and Tarantula. That's during Salma Hayek's kind of dance scene. Track 14 is Willie the Wimp in his Cadillac Coffin, another Stevie Ray Vaughan track. Track 15 is some more dialogue, which is Kill the Band by Thompson. That's audio from Tom Savini. Track 16 is Mexican Standoff. That's by, hopefully I'm going to pronounce this, I think it's Graham Revell, Graeme, Graham Revell. Oh, that's some of the original score was done by them. Track 17 is Sex Machine Attacks, which is just another score bit from Graham Revell. And then track 18 is Chet's Speech Part 2. This is more dialogue from Cheech Marin. It's a really good soundtrack. like I said, I picked it up on cassette back in 1996 because it was like $4 less than the CD, and I needed the $4 for something else. I forget exactly what. But then picked up the CD soundtrack years later. So that was the soundtrack. This was the first film I saw at Quentin Tarantino's New Beverly Cinema back in 2021. It was a midnight showing. It was an awesome experience. Because one thing I wanted to do when I went out there, whenever I go out to LA, I try to stop by the New Beverly Cinema. But a goal of mine was to go out there and just see any movie. And then I also wanted to see a movie that Tarantino had either directed or was involved with. So again, Robert Rodriguez directed this, but it was obviously written by Tarantino, so it's kind of still very much a Tarantino movie. So that was an awesome experience. And the other movie I eventually saw from him last year when I went was directed, written, and directed was Kill Bill Volume 1. So in New Beverly Cinema, if you're in LA, it's one of my favorite theaters to go to. Owned by Quentin Tarantino. They show everything on film. It's just an amazing theater. I've seen Evil Dead 2 there, The House That Dripped Blood, the Abominable Dr. Fives. What else did I see? Man Called Tiger, and then Bruce Lee's Super Dragon. So basically, some of those are like double features, but it's just an amazing theater in LA. If you're in LA and you're into film, definitely check it out. Now we're going to kind of just break down the plot of this film. Like I said earlier, it's literally like half crime film, a half vampire film, and it basically just hits a hard switch where one film ends, the other film starts. So starts off with Earl McGraw walking into like a border or near a border liquor store. He's kind of just talking to the guy who runs it. Seth and Richie are in there. The guy goes to use the restroom. They're like, "Hey, like." You're like, it's basically they're kind of just saying like, get him out of here so we can like continue what we're doing so we can leave. So he goes to use the restroom or comes back. Tarantino's character shoots him. He was basically saying that he was giving the cops signals and like saying like he was mouthing the words "help us," which I don't think the guy did. I don't think he did. I think Tarantino's character is definitely very psychotic in this movie. But a shootout ensues. A really cool scene where basically like Tarantino shoots out a bunch of liquor bottles, and the guy gets soaked in like hard liquor. George Clooney lights a roll of toilet paper and throws it over, lights the guy up. The guy falls, like lands in some popcorn, and popcorn is popping. It's really cool. We get our credit scene after that where they're just driving down the road. They go to a hotel. They discuss what their plan is going to be, what they're going to do. There's like bits on the news about like news broadcasts about them and their brothers that have basically escaped jail and they're killed a bunch of people who they're on the run. They have a hostage who's a female, I think a bank teller that they took hostage. That George Clooney is like, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Like, don't try to run on me. I got 6 little friends that can run faster than you. Tarantino then like he goes to scout. Like George Clooney leaves to kind of scout the area, and then Tarantino's character Richie basically calls her into the bedroom to watch some TV. George Clooney comes back from getting some food for them and like to discuss the plans, and sees that Richie has killed this woman. There's a fight there, and then it cuts to our other big characters are Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, and I think Ernest Liu. I don't think he's done anything really since this film. I think basically this was like one of his only films. Like I don't even think he even has like a. It doesn't even have like a Wikipedia like entry when you click on his name for the credits. But they're on a trip. This is Harvey Keitel's wife, and like prior to the film starting, had passed away, and he's kind of like ready to like leave his church. They are traveling around. They end up staying at the same hotel or motel that Seth and Richie are at. Seth and Richie basically take them hostage, and then they use them and their RV to get into Mexico. Once they get to Mexico, they get to the bar. The bar is, of course, frequented or run by vampires, and like I said, like basically this is where it hits that hard switch. Tarantino gets shot through the hand early in the film, and then later in the film he gets stabbed through the hand, and you see a bunch of blood pouring out of it. And Salma Hayek's character basically just like right then turns to a vampire, starts drinking his blood, and all the other people that work there go into their vampire forms, and then you have just vampires getting eliminated. You have characters like their heroes getting bitten. Tom Savini's character gets bitten, Harvey Keitel gets bitten, and then there is a final standoff. And the really cool thing with this movie is it sticks to the kind of tried and true vampire tropes with like, all right, crosses and holy water and like sunlight, stuff like that. So this is the first movie I think I saw where they had really creative ways of getting rid of vampires. So like George Clooney at one point has like a jackhammer that he's like attached a wooden stake to, and he's just like jackhammering a bunch of vampires. Ernest Liu, who plays Scott, has a basically a super soaker full of holy water. He has like basically I think they're condoms, but they're basically full of holy water. You can just throw them, then they kind of just explode, and holy water goes everywhere. So just really cool ways of kind of like eliminating vampires. Fred Williamson and Tom Savini are in this, and they are some of the people that survived the initial zombie or I'm sorry, zombie vampire like attack, and then eventually they both get turned to vampires at some point. And like basically after that, all the characters it comes down to just Seth, played by George Clooney, and Kate. I think it's Kate. Let me check our thing here. Julia Lewis, yeah, it's Kate. They are the two kind of sole survivors. They start shooting holes in the walls to kind of like let sunlight in. Sunlight starts hitting the vampires. They start exploding, and then Carlos and his kind of like men arrive. They blow up the door down. The rest of the sunlight comes in, hits a disco ball. It's a really cool effect. Disco ball spins around, blows up a bunch of vampires, and then there's a kind of like the final scene is them kind of just outside the bar, discussing what the plan is going to be. I think Kate initially wants to go with him, and George Clooney's character just gives her a bunch of money. He's like, you don't want to go to El Rey with me. It's not the kind of place you want to go to. The movie ends with her getting a bunch of money, getting like obviously has the keys to the RV. George Clooney follows Carlos. They leave, and then the final shot of the film is camera pans back, and you see the bar. And the back of the bar is like this ancient like Aztec temple that apparently like in one scene when they are in like the kind of the bar storeroom and they're picking that room apart for weapons. He's like George Clooney's like, I think this bar has been feeding on bikers and truckers for a long time. They have a whole bunch of shipments. So it's like this bar has been around like for a long time. And I think like the third movie. So the second one, I think still is in a modern setting from what I read. I'll have to watch that movie at some point. But the third one is like a prequel to everything else because I think that would like take place like in like the 1800s or something. But just a blast of a movie. Like it doesn't take itself very seriously at all. It plays into the kind of like it's very schlocky in parts, very campy, but intentionally so. It's not like it was like made to be like high art or anything like that. It sticks to some of the kind of tried and true vampire tropes, but it also like I said, it was the first vampire movie I saw where they were using like super soakers full of like holy water and just cool things like that. It's a blast of a movie. It's like I would highly recommend checking it out. Like I said, I didn't get to see it in theaters initially when it came out, but I made up for that in 2021 when I saw it at Quentin Tarantino's theater in LA. An awesome film. Like if there's any excuse to watch this movie, I'll watch it. It's always a good time. It's short enough that you can. It's like an hour and like 48 minutes, so it's not like a huge time investment to watch it, and it's just a lot of fun. So that is going to do it for this episode. We'll be back again in a few days. Probably be covering like a video game or a computer game of some kind. Um, Until then, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.